So this advent calendar has set me on fire just before I have to sit down for a half-hour to hour-long show on wrestling, and this is going to go brilliantly. I do apologise if I'm a little bit squirmy. Welcome to Spoiler Warning, where we talk wrestling, and we have, as always, plenty of wrestling to talk about. This is our first live show since Survivor Series. My review is already live. By all means, check that out if you haven't already, but we will be talking fresh live news today. We're going to be talking about the arrival of Liv Morgan and a face turn already in effect. We're going to be talking about Meltzer's view on the WrestleMania main events and how that's being played out backstage as we speak. We're going to talk about WWE's view of Bron Breakker and the future that he is offering them. We're going to talk Jacob Fatu being cleared to return to action. We're going to talk about the women's tag division and the Raw tag division. We're going to talk a little bit about the show on Monday and how well that's been received. Thank you as always. We're going to talk about MVP and Bobby Lashley making enemies backstage. And we're going to finish on a couple of things which I've already reported, which have now been confirmed. So always good news to know that plenty of people are watching Spoiler Warning, even if they're not necessarily people I would like to have watching. All works out, ain't got no issue with it. Welcome to Spoiler Warning, everyone. Let's start with Liv Morgan. Liv Morgan returned at Survivor Series slightly ahead of schedule, way ahead of the medical schedule that was laid out when she first got injured. She has returned to the side of Dominik Mysterio, helping him vanquish John Cena and win back the Intercontinental Championship. John Cena will not be getting any further rematches because he only has the one match left. When it comes to the plan for Judgment Day, Liv Morgan is the entire plan for Judgment Day. The entire group of Judgment Day at the moment have only 3 people being really genuinely written for. They are Liv Morgan, Dominik Mysterio, and Roxanne Perez. Everyone else, everyone, is being written to support those individuals. So Raquel Rodriguez, her storyline right now will be between Roxanne and Liv Morgan. Finn Balor, his storyline will be defined by between Roxanne and Dominik. And JD McDonough will continue to be JD McDonough. There's nothing else I can really say there. Like, I've interviewed the guy. He's very nice. I struggled with his accent. Genuinely did, despite having some Irish myself. But he's not doing anything particularly worthwhile at the moment other than hanging around with bigger names. Background push, I got no issue with it. For Liv Morgan, though, the face turn has already begun. You saw that this week on Raw when Liv Morgan handed the tag championship to Roxanne Perez. You also saw her aiming directly at Stephanie Vaquer. I expect that to be a match that happens around the Royal Rumble time, kind of to keep Liv Morgan out of the Rumble and out of contention as we head towards what looks most likely to be Stephanie Vaquer versus Becky Lynch. The interesting thing here is whether or not it is Raquel turning on Liv, that's what I expect, but when that happens, does Dominik go with Liv or does Dominik stay with Judgment Day? Because there is still a possibility that we have Finn Balor turning face, though his contract kind of prohibits him for any major storylines or major championships. I could see a world in which Finn Balor is our next Intercontinental Champion. That actually makes a lot of sense to me for WrestleMania, Dominik versus Finn Balor, or some sort of mixed tag match. That also makes a lot of sense to me. But for me, Dominik Mysterio is in a position right now where he could go all the way to the top and very, very quickly. I've said in the last few weeks, a major push was planned for Dominik Mysterio, and I don't believe that's just wrestling John Cena. So I suspect Dominik Mysterio's face turn may also be happening around WrestleMania time, and it'll be largely led by the love of his life, Liv Morgan. We already have 46 people watching, 18 likes, 2 more gets us to 20. Let's hit those thumbs up if you haven't already. So, let's check in and see how everyone's doing. First of all, thank you, Declan, for all that chat rate. While I appreciate it, I do want to clarify something. The chat rate system, and I've only learned this recently, actually only works per individual. So it's a situation where chat rate is based on how many comments you get per minute, but it's how many comments from different people per minute. So Declan, while I appreciate it, and you very much helped the chat rate here, I'd appreciate it if before the show you could turn it down a little bit. just to give other people room to jump in and hopefully help out. Very much appreciate your continued support, mate. Chris says, good evening all. Good evening to you too, Chris. Liam says, via Wrestling Observer, thank you as always for sourcing, there's been talk of transitioning Nikki Bella to a heel manager role down the line. Yeah, to put it bluntly, WWE are not particularly thrilled with her wrestling work at the moment, and it doesn't look like Brie Bella is going to be rejoining the WWE anytime soon, so that move to the tag division might not be on after all. We will be talking about Bron Breakker shortly, Liam. Howdy, Sledgehammer. Ray says, TNA want AJ Styles to wrestle on Thursday Night Impact's debut at the AMC Network, January 15th, 2026. I have a strong suspicion that will indeed take place. Tim says, Netflix announced the intent to buy Warner Bros. Discovery. What does this mean for the AEW TV deal? From what I'm being told, and I have reached out here and not got much, from what I'm being told, Warner Bros. Would be looking to sell channels like TBS and TNT. Other distributors may pick up the content, but Netflix is not said to be interested in a second wrestling promotion, even though WWE are trying to convince them to run TNA. Liam says, per WrestleVotes, there are some officials within WWE who don't love the idea of Gunther being John Cena's final opponent and retiring him. The only alternative now is LA Knight, and I think we are way, way past the point of that being particularly helpful. Way past that point. Dave says, did you see the video of Paul Heyman pushing away a young fan in the crowd at Survivor Series? I didn't, but it doesn't surprise me. Bob says, what do you think the Natalya video is all about on Raw? It is all about, at the moment, establishing Maxine Dupree. They're trying to make her as big a deal as possible before Becky Lynch ultimately just demolishes her. It's very much what happened with Lyra Valkyria. Liam says, John Cena is being advertised for the Raw After Mania. This was an advertisement for the Raw After Mania 2025. So they got it way wrong. Trouble says, hi Tom, how are you? Doing very well, thank you. I should clarify, there's a slightly larger echo today. It's because I have started taking up floorboards, but I've encountered problems with nails, in that they are really dug in there. Now, I've done what I can. So far, I've got rid of 4 of them. Also, my partner broke one in half because, my God, she buff. I ain't complaining about that. There's a reason I'm a wrestling fan. But yeah, there's like a hole in my floor now. So if you're unhappy with sound quality, I do apologise for my hole. As I feel all men should. Bailey, welcome, says, how was the viewer count on Monday's podcast? It was okay. I will get to the podcast a little bit later because there are a few things I want to cover. The watch time was fantastic. So the people that did watch watched a lot. We got 40%, which is about 6% higher than we've averaged in the podcast so far. So that's fantastic, but it did come at a slight cost. However, there was one moment that went nicely viral, to be honest, just a little bit. But there was a huge 30% spike in viewership. So people were repeatedly watching that moment during the video, which I enjoy. Liam says there was talk backstage at Survivor Series that Fatu is close to returning to WWE storylines. It is believed to maybe back touring with the company again within the next few weeks. I do have more news on that to come. Calvin says, hello, Tom. Hello, Calvin. Treble says, are you ready for MFTs and Wyatt's feud? And do you see it leading to a match at Mania or Rumble? More and more I see it leading to a match at Mania. Because at the moment, there's no plan at all for Solo Sikoa. So Mania. It would quite likely be their first real PLE. What a way to do it. Hey Ed, how you doing, man? Michael says, hi Tom. Also says Dakota Kai back in wrestling an even March against Chris Statlander. I will have to reach out to the sir. See if I can potentially get down to that one. What can I say? I've been a fan for a long time. Marcel says, hi Tom and chat, how are you all? Doing very well, thank you, Marcel. And as I says, is Austin Theory the plan for Mystery Man, or is there a swerve? I'm confident it's going to be, because it was Austin Theory under the outfit. Sean says, when speaking to The Ringer, John Cena said he originally wanted to work 220 days during his retirement tour, but said WWE only wanted him for 36 dates. Yes, it was the WWE who made that decision. John Cena gave them an expansive list, and the 220 dates were essentially, in 1 year, every possible house show and in fact more house shows than the WWE had. It's not even that they couldn't afford his rate, they just didn't have that many shows. Liam says, from Wrestling Observer, there are several big NXT call-ups reportedly expected in the next month or so. Also says, oh, that's via Ringer, same one. Noob says, hello, Mr. Colohue. Hello, Noob. Good to see you, sir. How the devil are you? There we go. Liam says, Finn Balor is in line for a renewed singles push in 26 via Backstage Pass on WrestleVotes Radio. I thought that was on Fightful now. Bob says, how are you getting on with your house? Well, it is still an element of carnage. I'm going to learn to plaster in the next few days. I don't have much of a choice. I need to do around the door frame. So I need to plaster that, then stick the architrave? Wood to it. But also, I need to pick my moment here because I need to be able to close the door to do my shows. But I need to take off the wood where it actually closes and like it locks in. So you close the door, there's a piece of wood there. I need to take off that piece of wood because it's been demolished. Every door in this house has been broken through on several occasions. I don't want to ask questions because what if? Mega D says, good morning, Tom, how you doing? Charlie, aka Dakota Kai, on March 8th will make a pro wrestling return against Chris Statlander for the EVE International Championship at Pro Wrestling EVE. Hilariously, her original name, Evie, really works with the EVE platform. Michael Winston says WWE teased reuniting Damian Priest and Rhea on SmackDown. Did have any news on that? Thanks, Tom. No, not at this time. Damian Priest is someone that WWE are exploring a few new options for. They're not particularly happy with how he's been doing recently. The work of Aleister Black has been fairly well received backstage, but not particularly well received by the viewing public. Liam, as always, brings the card as well. Announced for WWE SmackDown tonight, LA Knight vs. Gunter. The last time is now tournament final. Ilya Dragunov's US Championship Open Challenge. And what is next for the undisputed WWE Champion, Cody Rhodes. Sean says, on his Wrestling with Freddie podcast, former WWE writer Freddie Prinze Jr. claims a friend who works at Disney told him that ESPN isn't happy with the WWE deal. That may well be true, but WWE have other options. I think the main reason they're not happy is something that I've mentioned here before. Triple H wants to get rid of the brand split. Netflix internationally already has everyone. But ESPN does not. Robin Dave says, if we do get Roman versus Cody, again, somebody has to go heel. Yes, indeed. Declan says, Netflix has Warner Brothers, so AEW and WWE and Netflix, they don't have them yet. Declan, absolutely no need to apologise. I've led you wrong by not fully understanding the situation. There is absolutely no need to apologise. Okay? It's just, I needed a bit more time to correct what I know. I am continually appreciative of the work that you do to help promote this show. So don't you dare apologise to me. Calvin says, have you heard that there may be a swerve in the Master Attacker storyline? If that's not theory, he's obviously doomed. He's been doomed for a long time. Juan says, Logan Paul confirmed your report on Trump potentially attending Cena's last match. Thank you for bringing that in, Juan. Somebody, in this case Logan Paul, watches Spoiler Warning. Yes, thank you, Michael. PWInsider also confirms this. Netflix is not purchasing the linear channels owned by Warner Brothers. Those channels will be spun off into a new, separate, publicly traded company known as Discovery Global. Yeah, so they are separating. There is a sort of the opposite of a merge, a splinter, I believe they refer to it as, or a sale in more conventional terms, because they will be launching a new company, Discovery Global, and then purchasing the old systems from basically themselves. Declan says, do you think Becky dethroned Maxine? Not necessarily. I think she has bigger fish to fry, but I do think there's going to be another match. Robin Dave says, do you see Jey Uso turning on his brother? No, I see him turning on Roman. Bob says, will Jacob Fatu return as a babyface or a heel? Babyface. There is no interest in a heel Jacob Fatu. Hector says, Tom, how the hell are you, my friend? Welcome, Hector. Good to see you, man. Hope all is well. Everything's good, man. Everything's good. Hope it is with you as well. What do you think of Meltzer saying original plans for Mania was Cody versus Drew and Punk versus Roman? If true, what do you think changed to have them pivot? Well, to be blunt, that's simply not the original plans. The original plans involved Seth Rollins versus Roman Reigns. CM Punk would not be the champion at current without the input of Seth Rollins and the injury to him. So that, put simply, is incorrect. But we'll get to that right now. Be sure to hit like if you haven't already. We've got 23, but we've got 60 people. Let's boost those numbers. Let's talk about the reporting from the Wrestling Observer on the WrestleMania main event. Now, to clarify, a couple of weeks ago, 1 week ago, I reported that there was discussion about a championship unification match featuring Cody Rhodes, CM Punk, and of course, Roman Reigns. This is still under consideration, but the WWE, in this case Triple H, are said to be leaning more towards Bron Breakker, as he has impressed. The promo on Raw was said to be a literal sink or swim moment, allowing Bron Breakker to show what he could do, and the WWE is certainly interested, but nothing is finalised for WrestleMania yet in the main event scene. What Meltzer's reported is that we will see CM Punk defending against Bron Breakker. This seems likely at this point. WWE are very high on Bron Breakker, so I can see this definitely working out. The other match is purportedly Rhodes versus Reigns. Now, Roman Reigns was promised a World Championship match, so it would not surprise me if he did get the match against Cody, but I don't think anyone's crying out for Cody versus Roman 3. I don't think anyone's crying out for this. Now, as regards Bron Breakker, this, of course, if he is going all the way at WrestleMania, this would be why he was pulled from the original Battle Royal, and would also necessitate Reigns winning in the Chamber so that Breakker could win the Rumble. However, it would mean Bron Breakker is going to have to lose to CM Punk very, very soon in order to make this happen. So I don't know how that's going to play out. It may well be some element of Cody Rhodes, but Bron Breakker needs to not become the champion too soon in order to make space for a championship win in the relatively near future. Without factoring in any particular main events or anything involved in the good old-fashioned world of WrestleMania, what I can say is that WWE believe that Bron Breakker is fully ready for the World Heavyweight Championship. This is Seth Rollins making the argument that he wants Bron Breakker winning the gold. They've just taken a little longer to get there. Punk's second reign also looks set to be fairly short compared to the pantheons of his previous reigns, and of course the Roman Reigns reign. Reigns? The Roman reigns, no. The Triple R. He had the championship for a long time, you all remember. I don't feel I need to say this. Anyway. Ooh. Liam says, what's next for Cody, Tom? We'll find out. It's difficult to be able to say because there are plenty of people who could step up, and at this point, Cody's been asked who he wants to work with. I wouldn't be too surprised if it was someone like Nakamura, to be honest. Even though he's kind of a face now. Who knows? DIY indeed, Declan. Sir Ginger says, hey, says, evening, Tom. Chattery, thank you. The jobber that joined the Riot Squad being integral to Judgment Day plans. How times change. Yeah, Ruby Riot was considered the jewel in that crown. No longer with the company, of course. Hello, Carl. Good to see you, man. Says, hey, Tom. Hope you and the family are well. Did you see Dakota Kai vs. Chris Statlander will be on EVE in 2026? See, I love that people know I'm a fan because it's been mentioned several times. And I'm going to have to reach out and be like, hey, why didn't you tell me? Why didn't you tell me? Got to talk to Dan. Rickan says, do you think Britt Baker is done with AEW? Just waiting on a contract to expire, and do you see her going to WWE? No, and at this point, no. Sean says Alexa Bliss versus Kairi Sane was also announced for SmackDown. Liam, also via the Ringer, talking John Cena, says John Cena admits there was simply not enough time to tell the right story for his heel turn, that it's going to take a year or two on television for it really to sink in. Cal says, do you expect Gunther to beat LA Knight? Also, how has Backstage reacted to his matches since his return, giving Solo, Javon and Mello their best matches yet? Everyone knows how good Gunther is. Everyone knows what they're getting with Gunther. Backstage are, as you might expect, thrilled with everything he is doing. Sean says, is Zeta Steele signed with Ring of Honor or is it a handshake deal? At the moment it's a handshake deal, but if she does well, there will be a signature. Bailey says, is Becky's limited date contract already in effect? She's been working a lot lately. She has, but her limited date contract is not a week-by-week contract. Her limited date contract involves several weeks and at times months of batched time off. Juan says, the only way AEW goes out of business, which they won't, is if TK gets stripped of ownership. People forget AOL, who merged with Warner Bros. Discovery, stripped Ted Turner of WCW ownership. Liam says, there's reportedly, this is via Wrestling Observer again, a possibility that Seth Rollins will be back in time for WrestleMania and a match between him and Bron Breakker could be under consideration. It's amazing how many different things the Wrestling Observer reported would be happening at WrestleMania, all of which contradict each other, and yet all of them got reported elsewhere. Always a possibility we see him, Cal, doesn't necessarily mean he's going to wrestle. Declan, no. I personally would go Chamber because it just seems more Becky's style. Michael says, fun fact, in 2000, Netflix founders offered to sell their company to Blockbuster for $50 million and were laughed out of the building. Yeah, who's laughing now? Netflix made the right call moving to streaming. For a long time, nobody was signing up. They came very close to going bye-bye. And then they changed the entire landscape of TV. Cal says, in my opinion, Cody versus Roman can't be a regular singles match. I'd like to see a Hell in a Cell or a TLC match. I could go for a TLC. That could be fun. Sean says, I do believe Paul Heyman announced CM Punk will defend against Bron Breakker on the first Raw of 2026. He will indeed. Cal says, we know how Rock very much wants to be involved with Cody and Roman. If they meet again at Mania, do you see him being there, Tom, in some capacity? And do you see him writing for that match? I see him trying desperately to get involved and hopefully failing. Jan says, do you think that Becky Lynch will get the justice that she deserves? I've mentioned this, I think, when she first returned at WrestleMania. So a couple of weeks after WrestleMania, I said, Becky Lynch has been working on a Donald Trump impersonation. I feel so vindicated every time she does anything now. Also, the fact that she's working so closely to put over Rick Ucchino, a wonderful person and someone that I got his first wrestling writing job in Sportskeeda, but they already knew about him. They were desperate to give him that shot. So I'm very, very happy to see him succeed. And do recommend his work for everyone involved. Michael says, odds Dakota goes to AEW. I'd find it very likely AEW will be watching Eve when she is involved. Tim says, were you watching WWE when Luther Reigns was in WWE? If you did, do you think he was a good wrestler? I was not watching at that time, no. I took a break between 2001 and 2014. Hector says, speaking Nakamura, what do you think of the whole New Japan AEW Tanahashi debate? Debacle. It just feels like WWE trying to be petty at the end of the day. News got shared that Nakamura was going to be released. Funnily enough, a lot of people said that he wasn't going to be released. I was called a liar by several people who said he's definitely not going to be released, and this story is confirmation that WWE were planning to release him and then changed their minds. Declan says, hell, Jay versus babyface Roman Reigns at WrestleMania next year. I'd buy that. I'd absolutely buy that. One says, kind of shocking that Dakota Kai hasn't signed with AEW yet after Meltzer guaranteed her signing there after her release. He also claimed WWE officials expected her there too. Yeah, they want confirmation that she's not still injured. That's all they're looking for. So a couple of matches under her belt will make all the difference. Noob says, do you think Asuka and Io Sky is losing some steam before War Games? I think the Kabuki Warriors winning the women's tag titles slowed down the progress. It's no longer about Io versus Asuka. They have moved on to something else. Ray says, do you want to see Chris Jericho back in WWE? Personally, no. Drive-By says, hi Tom, it seems Roman and Bron are big favourites to win the Rumble. What are your thoughts on this? Makes sense to me. Bron Breakker seems a very obvious choice right now, and honestly, not a bad one. I do, Bob. That was a long time ago. Interesting, Bailey. I can see that work. As I says, what's going on with both tag team divisions? They seem very flat or non-existent wrestlers. We'll get into that shortly. Bob says Natalia had a rant about Becky Lynch on Busted Open Radio because she's trying to get attention to Becky Lynch. Declan says, I could see Becky dethroning Stephanie at WrestleMania next year. I could see her losing. Kel says, I really am excited for the Wise and MFT feud, but for me, this feud feels the last chance. If this flops, they will be in a worrying position. I think, unfortunately, they already are. Rickon says, when's Nakamura's contract finished, or did he get extended? I don't know. To be completely frank, I'm not sure on that. Liam says, there's no certainty that Austin Theory will end up being the guy under the mask when it's revealed. It probably won't be Rollins. They drag it out until January. It could be Jericho. I would hate if it was Jericho. But yes, while it was Austin Theory, that doesn't mean that's who they're going to say it was. All I know is that he really missed his spot. Cal says, I believe WWE re-signed Shinsuke simply to F over AEW and New Japan as he was wanted for a retirement tour for a New Japan legend. He didn't have to sign it. So, if he has signed it, and he did actually want to go and have that retirement tour, he's effed over himself. Cal says, when do you think Tiffy will return? She's had a lot of personal and physical issues the last 2 months. I think she'll have a nice long break, to be honest. I expect to see her at the Rumble. And probably not before. She deserves it. Juan says, Meltzer confirmed yet another report of Tom Colohue. WWE's after a retirement storyline and Hall of Fame induction. No credit as always. Yeah, we know this. We try our best here to report as much news as possible, as much verified true news as possible. And when it gets out and you guys are able to fact check it, you can see how reliable this news has proven to be. And yes, the fact that my work doesn't get credited anywhere is very telling of the fact that they want to make sure nobody trusts anything I say, because, let's be fair, a lot of what I report ends up on paywalls. Why would you sign up for a paywall when you can get it for free? Liam says, WWE's reportedly offered Chris Jericho a retirement storyline, and those in the company have said that's what they would be interested in via Wrestling Observer, confirming what Juan has said as well. Always nice to see what I've reported being proven true. Jacob Fatu has been being confirmed. It's not proven yet. Jacob Fatu has been cleared to return to action. He technically was cleared to return before Survivor Series, just slightly before, but it was too late in the day to add him to proceedings. Expect Jacob Fatu versus Drew McIntyre in the near future. That could be in and around Cody Rhodes as well. So I do expect Jacob Fatu to make his triumphant return relatively soon once they have the storylines in place to do so. Jacob Fatu cleared to return to action. Kel says, hey Tom, I forgot to tell you on Discord, I've been watching a lot of Japan Will Ospreay matches. I watched Omega and Ospreay in Japan, and also Okada versus Omega in Japan, and holy wow, yeah, absolutely. I cannot disagree, and I don't think I ever will disagree. Will Ospreay is, as we know, an amazing wrestler, and frankly, everything that we're looking for out of the UK. So his work with Kazuchika Okada, amazing wrestler, you can't really lose. Carmelina, welcome back. It's been a little while. Says, when is Jay going full heel? WWE keep delaying it because of injuries and issues with fan reception. So I do think we're still building towards it, but it's when the crowd turns, really. No, Declan, this is yellow. This is Fanta. Well, technically it's orange. It's Fanta. Do they have Fanta in the States? I'm confident they do. The women's tag team division and, in fact, the Raw tag division is hitting new highs. Now, for both divisions, this is largely because they've kind of sucked for a long time, to the point that we've only really had 1 or 2 teams involved. But with AJ Styles and Dragon Lee as champions, the Raw tag division is starting to hit, much as the United States Championship has, I felt, had a resurgence under Ilya Dragunov. Well, to be fair, under Sami Zayn. What this really comes down to is giving it to faces who are fighting champions. And this is also true in the women's tag division. Alexa Bliss and Charlotte Flair have been very good for that division. It has been helped by Roxanne Perez and, of course, Raquel Rodriguez. But now suddenly we have a lot of tag teams that want the gold. And honestly, I'm really quite enjoying it. However, with the fact that Triple H is booking jumps back and forth between different divisions and sometimes struggles to get a particular division out of first gear, there are concerns by some within WWE that Triple H is booking the show for Twitter. He's watching too much social media, he's tracking too many fan opinions, and his booking is designed to basically deal with whatever people hate the most at the moment. There are some genuine concerns there. We've got a bit more to come, but I want to take this opportunity to talk about the podcast on Monday. Now, we shared on Monday our review of Survivor Series. I also added something at the end. So if you did watch all of it and get to the and now for something completely different, please let me know in the chat that you did watch it. If you watched any of the podcast, please let me know in the chat, because I'd love to know what you thought of it. Now, there was a couple of things that really jumped out. Firstly, by the end, I'd sort of put together a monologue, similar to like a late night show, a couple of dumb jokes and a couple of innuendo bits. I'd love to know what you guys think of that, because I quite enjoyed it. But if you guys don't enjoy it, there's not much point doing it. And it does require a little bit more scripting than I would typically go for other areas. There is also a particular part of the show which had a massive boost because people kept going back and rewatching it. And it was, to put it bluntly, my Finn Balor thirst trap, when I talked about respecting the effort that he puts into his body. A lot of people seem to want to watch that multiple times. Don't know why, but some people really enjoyed hearing me talk about Finn Balor's abs. Maybe Finn Balor himself was watching and he just really enjoyed the moment. Who knows? What I will say is I think the smart move is to make that into a short. So I'm going to be doing that shortly. Shortly. I am going to start looking at moments in the podcast that I can turn into shorts. You literally just cut it out of the show itself once it's already uploaded. So that's nice and easy. You don't have to do much else. And it does direct traffic back to the podcast. So I'm going to look if there are any particular moments. So let me know in the comments of the podcast what you enjoyed the most. And hopefully if we are doing some sort of monologue, that can be something which I pull out as well and convert into a short. I just need to know what to pull out and when. There is a right and wrong time to pull out. So I just want to make sure each short is the right moment. Let me know your thoughts. Right. Cal says the WWE TNA deal worked for both parties. It very much does, yes. As I says, who do you think attacked Jacob Fatu? The obvious choice seems to be Drew McIntyre. I can't imagine it being anyone else, to be honest. We've just peaked to 71 viewers so far. Still the 31 likes. Let's get 4 more if we can to get us up to 35. A nice round number goes a long way and really does help boost the number of people watching, because before we started getting a few likes, we dropped down to 45 again. So we saw a pretty big spike there with a few likes. So if you're able to, please remember to hit that thumbs up button. Cal says, as both AJ and Jericho seem to be retiring next year, do you potentially see their last matches being each other or on the same night? No, to put it frankly. I can't see them wrestling each other because they both want to lose. Cal also says there are positives to 4-match cards, but it significantly hurts the mid-card belts, in my opinion. Ashley watched. Brilliant. Good to know, Ashley. Ray says, Dutch Mantel said he is bored of Jey Uso and that he is stalled. Dutch Mantel is right, in my opinion. Hector says, what are your thoughts on that Impact AMC TV deal? Was there other offers out there? Was this the best and most beneficial deal for Impact? And there were other offers. I would argue there weren't better offers, and the WWE have done what they can to sweeten that pot. Carl says, I enjoyed it, Tom. Thank you, mate. Ashley says, I liked it as well. Brilliant. Thank you. Calvin says, do you wonder if LA Knight has heat backstage? He doesn't. I feel like once he loses to Gunter in the finals, he'll have nothing going on. It feels like every month we say, okay, but what's LA Knight going to do next? And there is always something. Always something. Cal says, did you see Bryan Danielson say on the Chris Van Vliet, he'd love to come back to wrestling, but he said he doesn't think he could ever physically do it. And that is what he's being told by a lot. Certainly could be. Sir Ginger says, revealing someone from NXT put Jacob Fatu on the shelf. would be an okayish way of launching a monster. Mega D Side says, I can see Triple H booking for Twitter. For example, everything Rio. Certainly made a lot of people very, very happy. Azza says, any plans for the Don? He's been backstage at NXT or US. He is delaying being released. He's not. I'm not aware of any plans to release him. Liam says, when asking a number of WWE sources about Donald Trump attending John Cena's last match, one said, I'd be surprised, but who effing knows? That is via the Fightful paywall. Cal says, I've really got into AEW this year and I've enjoyed AEW more than WWE this year. Every AEW show or pay-per-view seems to be a fun card. Also really loaded. Rickan says, do you see LA Knight leaving when his deal is up or signing a new one? Signing a new one. He's one of the top names in the company. He's consistently featured in the main event week in, week out, so he's doing pretty well for himself. MVP and Bobby Lashley are said to be becoming increasingly unpopular backstage within AEW and particularly in the AEW locker rooms due to the pair of them turning down major spots and match finishes multiple times. They are also said to be two of the only people in AEW who refuse to take certain losses. They're also, they have at times, apparently, I've been told this, refused to tap when they have been requested to tap out and put someone else over. MVP has confirmed that he basically refuses on Bobby Lashley's behalf. Calvin says, could Seth return with a new faction? He could. I don't think he will. I think he'll return as a face, so it works out. Carl says, Bryan Danielson also says in the mid-2010s he was having seizures due to his concussions, and he lied to WWE. His life is pro wrestling. I'm glad he can be involved still in some capacity. Yeah, WWE want to bring him back as creative and as a road agent and a match producer. I think he'd do very well there. However, WWE were aware he lied, and that's one of the reasons they didn't fight particularly hard to keep him. Ray says, TNA stars in talks with WWE. Mike Santana. What's the source for this, Ray? I'd love you to tell me the source before I read that out. Declan, Becky could, Becky won't. Cal says, I think LA Knight is in a big name and still will get main events, but his time passed him. He has the unfortunate situation where he was at his peak popularity. Roman Reigns was the champ. Very true. Very true. He wasn't brought in too strong under Vince McMahon. That hurt him. Self-Made Pro, which is the new vehicle for Ibu of Wrestle Purists, has confirmed everything I've already reported about plans for the Vision's breakup, the exact timeline of that breakup after next year's WrestleMania, and the original plan for this year's WrestleMania of Seth Rollins defending the World Heavyweight Championship against Roman Reigns. That was set to be the main event of night one. This is Ibu, who also once laughed at me, like laughed in the face, when I reported accurately on the launch of Marigold and the WWE's deal with TNA before they were officially announced. So, yeah. Somebody watches. Spoiler warning. In a similar vein, Fightful's paywall confirmed that AJ Lee was not returning to the WWE full-time. Fightful also reported that AJ Lee was returning to the WWE full-time. So yeah, awkward. But hey, they get double the headlines and double the paycheck, so who am I to complain at their business model? We will be on Monday doing a new episode of the Wrestling Receipt. That is going to be a regular part of the podcast now, so you're going to get plenty of Wrestling Receipt in the weeks to come. Do not worry about that. I will be sharing some more news and repeating the news that I currently have during that show as well, just at the end for anyone who hasn't been able to watch live. Ken says, MVP and Bobby Lashley overvalue themselves in my opinion. I mean, they keep getting paid the big bucks. King Azza says, do you think we get Roman versus Cody and CM Punk versus Bron Breakker? Discuss that at the beginning of the show, mate. Just rewind and you'll find it. Oh, ringside news. Ray, you know better than that, mate. You know better than that. And Cal says, not going to lie, I don't see the hype of AJ Lee. I don't think her and Nikki Bella work in 2025. I don't think we've seen enough of AJ Lee, or in fact Nikki Bella recently, to make that decision. But I do think Triple H is sort of heading in that direction. Certainly from what I'm seeing, Triple H is very firmly heading in that direction. Guys, we've been live for 40 minutes. I've shared all of the news that I have. So I'm going to wrap it up there. I'm going to say, as usual, I've been Tom Colohue. I will see you on Monday for the podcast. You've been fantastic. I'll see you very soon.